Hello, good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
We're here for a second session. Tony's talking about his book, which has just been published, My Wings of Destiny. I'm not sure if that's going to come out, but
it'll be reversed, won't it?
Possibly, yeah. But it's an autobiography of your life, isn't it?
From birth to now.
So is there anything you wanted to reflect on the first recording that we did?
What I set out to do with the book and with the video is to try and show people what my experiences have done for me and what they've taught me and how they've guided me to become much more empathetic and understanding of other people and less judgmental and more tolerant. So ideally we need to look at the experiences I've had and why they've led me to see things the way I do.
Yeah. So it's like experiential wisdom.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's wisdom, if you can call it that, but it's an understanding that I've come to through personal experience and personal experience of my own life and seeing other people's lives and how they differ, what their beliefs are and what their customs are. Because when you travel and you get in with people in their proper culture and their proper lifestyles, you suddenly realize that there's a whole lot going on that most people are completely unaware of. And you're allowed into what is a secret world in many ways. They share it with you because they trust you. And I think that's very important. So I set out, I earned their trust and became friends and joined in with them. So in all the countries I've been in, including Canada, there are a variety of ways of looking at things and relating to people. And that's what's taught me what I now feel I understand about living your life.
So are you saying actually immersing yourself into the local community?
Oh yeah, if you don't immerse, if you just pass by without understanding, participating and experiencing, you really don't know. It has to be all or nothing. And I threw myself totally into the environment that they were experiencing, partly because I had to. I was living there. I lived the same as they did, often lived with them. And so I ate the same food, I lived the same lives, and I had to experience the discomforts and the unpleasantness they experienced. Okay, at all times I've been protected, I guess, because I could run away if I wanted. I didn't want to. I wanted to stay and get it all, and I did.
Are you talking about Papua New Guinea?
Not just Papua New Guinea, yeah. Botswana, Micronesia, and each culture had its own beliefs and systems, and they differed.
Right, yeah.
And within some countries, there were different beliefs. In Papua New Guinea, in the highlands, the women were second-class citizens. They had it tough. But on some of the islands, it was a matriarchal society.
Oh, okay.
And I've got a friend who was kind of the chief of the village. She doesn't live there. She lives abroad, but travels. And I stayed with her and saw what it was like. The men didn't seem to mind at all, which was really rather good. But in other parts, the highlands of Papua New Guinea, the men were pretty tough on their wives. I can recollect sitting with a husband and wife, and the husband said, "Oh, I'm going to get rid of her because she can't have babies." she's useless. And my heart went out to her. I just thought, well, you know, you're married to this guy, and isn't he a stinker? You know, what a horrible thing to say, and how uncaring. And we make a lot about love in our society. In most of the societies that I've integrated into, love is non-existent. It doesn't exist. You marry for convenience. You marry to have a woman to cook your food, tend your garden, look after your animals, and have your babies. And if a woman can't have babies, then she's pretty useless. Which I think's wrong. I think it's terrible. Because it's just not true. And I walk behind men who have nothing. And behind them is women with half a dozen bags piled on their head, babies under their arms, and all the man can do is turn around and say, hurry up. And my heart just goes out to them. I think, well, this is wrong. It's my interpretation. I don't like it, but it's their way, and you either accept it or you're trying to change them. And I don't set out to try and change them. I set out to try and learn from what they did and how they did it.
Yeah.
That's how it related to me and my culture.
So which do you think is more of an authentic representation, the matriarchal on the islands, or
the patriarchal?
Or the patriarchal on the highlands?
Patriarchal is much more realistic, and it's much more worldwide. In Africa, it's patriarchal. In Micronesia, it was patriarchal. In the West, it's pretty patriarchal. The men are still pretty dominant, although it's sliding a little because finally women are starting to assert themselves a wee bit. But here again, we need to be really careful about
balancing.
Yeah, because it can go too far the other way, and then I see that as wrong as well, because if you've got an imbalance, people aren't equal. People need to be totally equal.
Equally yoked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I'm afraid for most societies it isn't so.
When you went to, in terms of the matriarchal islands then, what were the differences?
Very little difference, apart from the fact that the decisions were made by one woman. She was in charge, and the men might discuss it with her, but at the end, she made the decision.
And were they quite clearly more feminine decisions?
No,
or was it still a patriarchal?
It was decisions based on everything.
Yeah. Okay.
So everything from, should we build a little village shop, to where will the kids go to school, to how are we going to look after this old woman because she's got no relatives and she's all alone, so we need to do it. And someone has to make a decision. That's life. At the end of the day, ultimately, someone has to make a decision about what is going to happen. So there's always someone who's in charge.
Yeah, rather than sort of like a grassroots.
Well,
community.
even in grassroots, at the end of the day, somebody makes the decision.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard position to be in. I remember her saying at one of the meetings that I was quietly sitting watching, she said to a man, "Now you're going to accept what I say. If you don't, I'm going to slap your face." And I was, oh, wonderful. Yeah, what would happen in England if someone said that?
Well, they probably wouldn't tell them first. Don't you?
It was put straight to their face. I loved it.
Yeah.
I admired her. I thought, what a wonderful woman. She can really put them in their place.
Yeah. Well, she would need to. Yeah.
She was strong. And of course, that's a subsidiary.
So it is like that, survival of the fittest then, to get to.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's it. If you're strong, and often that's physical strength, you're going to survive. If you're weak physically, you're not going to survive. Somebody will take advantage of it and get rid of you.
Yeah. So you feel innately human beings in that tribal environment are constantly in that vying for.
Oh yeah, power.
Power and leadership. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, not a great difference to the West as
No,
things stand,
no, the tribal wounding, but
but
so
we conceal it better in the West.
yeah, behind our
It comes under the facade of reasonableness, safety, for the good of the whole, and things like that, whereas it was much more individuals.
it's still fractured, yeah.
I quite approve of the individuality being supported,
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
but the individuality was there with each person in the third world. Not an expression I like, but when it came to a big decision, everybody had to benefit. Everybody had to agree or disagree.
Yeah. So when you came back, going back to your book, where we finished with the last one previously with Papua New Guinea, you had a wife and a son.
I had a Papua New Guinea wife
Yeah,
and a son, Apio.
Apio. And did you come back to the UK before you went?
Yeah, we came back between jobs because often in developing countries they won't allow you to stay if you haven't got a job.
Right.
So I came home,
Yeah.
but the whole experience had just made me want to do more. So I actually went to Botswana with the British Council Teacher of Botswana Recruitment Scheme, and they plunked me right in the middle of the capital city, Gaborone.
Right.
And I didn't like it one bit. It was totally westernized, modern shopping malls, supermarkets. The education was pretty modern with a curriculum. And I did a couple of years in that environment, and then I applied to be transferred, and I chose a school where everybody said, "Oh, you don't know what you're letting yourself in for." And I went to a school 400 miles out from the nearest shop in a place. The shops were in a place called Maun,
Yeah.
which is right on the heart, on the edge of the Kalahari and Desert and the Okavango Delta. And we had to travel by lorry 400 miles out into the Kalahari, where we were dumped under a tree and taken by boat 75 miles out across crocodile-laden swamps to the school, where I spent quite a few years and never came out. And there I mixed with the San people, who were lovely. They're the indigenous people of the Kalahari Desert.
Okay.
They're tiny, about 4 foot tall.
Right.
And they talk with the click language, which I never did learn, but there's a lot of in their conversations. They were one of the original languages.
How interesting.
And they can live where no one else can live. They carry water in ostrich eggs. They know the tubers and the roots. And I travelled with some of them a wee bit and learned some of their skills. And learned about not talking too much. A lot of them are very silent. They hardly talk.
Yeah.
But they have lovely dances in the evenings around the fires, and they dance with sort of bells made of seed pods around their ankles, and their feet to do the dancing rather than the body.
Right. Okay.
And also with the local villagers who are called Setswana, and they're Botswanans. And I lived in a village where the only occupation was either working with the school or having a cattle stations, because in Botswana, cattle are everything. There are more cattle in Botswana than people. And they use the cattle for lobola or bride price. In fact,
What's that, for trading or
buying your wife?
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Most countries.
So the cow is valued at higher, or they just trade in that?
Well, that's their money until Western style money came in.
Right. Okay.
So if you wanted a wife or you wanted a transaction, something to buy, you would trade cattle for it.
Yeah.
There's bride prices in many places in the world. Papua New
Yeah,
Guinea was
yeah.
pigs, Botswana was cattle.
So they had very different ways, the Sand people and...
Oh yeah, the Sand people were something in their own right. They
unique, very
in
unique.
fact, up until not very long ago, and I'm not sure quite when, the Sand people were persecuted, and it was a little bit like the Red Indians in North America, where the government paid a price for their heads. So they were nearly wiped out.
Because the resources of their land, or why?
Well, sure, there were diamonds. I mean, Botswana has more diamonds than any other country in the world, and they're rich.
Right. Okay.
So they knew there were diamonds out, because Botswana and Namibia, which is another diamond nation, were side by side.
Okay.
But cattle were the indigenous way of bartering.
Yeah.
Women were subservient. In some parts of Africa, a woman is expected to kneel down when she serves her man his meal, and she certainly wouldn't consider eating until he'd finished and was told her he was satisfied.
Were you able to talk to any of them about these traditions?
Yes, but since I didn't wish to cause offence, I was very careful how I worded things. If I wanted to be critical, I'd say something like, well, how is that going to affect you? And they would say, well, a little maybe, or possibly somewhat. The best example of that I can give is in Papua New Guinea. I came in the school I was working in, came around the corner and found the cook's wife lying on the floor with both her legs broken. And he had broken them.
Oh gosh.
Now, if I'd helped her, I would have been accused of taking sides, so I couldn't help her, which was not easy. I had to go and find help. So my criticism to him was, well, now you're going to have to look after the children yourself. No, that backfired on me, because he said, now I'll get another woman relative in, she'll do the work. Which was an eye-opener to me, you know. I thought, oh dear, these poor women. And women would be in servitude from a very early age. 13, 14, younger than that even. They wouldn't go to school, the girls. They'd be sent to a relative to look after their children. And as in my wife's case, for example, she never went to school. She was a nanny to her uncle's kids from about 8 years old.
Right.
So she's never learned to read and write. In fact, she never wore shoes till she met up with me. So yeah, these are all symptoms of how tough it is for women.
And patriarchal systems. But that's very brutal though, isn't it?
It is brutal.
Yeah.
Brutality is what I seek to avoid in my life. Compassion, love, understanding, caring, empathy. And I guess one of the things that it's given me is a tremendous amount of empathy. I look at people now, actually their eyes. I can look at people's eyes and they tell me, and their mouths, they tell me a lot about themselves. You see a mouth that's turned down, invariably I find that person's a bit miserable or unhappy or sad or grumpy. And you can look into the eyes and see sadness, happiness, anger, fear. So I guess I sometimes spook people because I say, you've got a problem, you know, can I help you? Is anything wrong? Because I look in their eyes and I see sadness, invariably sadness that draws me.
Yeah, so because you've witnessed so much brutality, you feel...
So I'm looking in your eyes now.
Oh, are you? You're weighing me up.
No, I'm just seeing what they say. No, I'm not weighing you up.
No, I'm kidding. So,
Don't you want to know?
oh, I'm fine. Yeah, tell me.
Slightly sad, slightly happy. A little mixture of both.
Balanced.
Yeah,
Yeah.
balance.
Bittersweet as life is, darling.
Yeah.
So so were you with your wife and Apio, your son?
Yeah, when we came back to England,
Yeah,
we were together.
You were together. Did they return
Well,
on your next
I always
posting?
think that it's essential that the family share together. So although she expected to be left behind, I didn't. I took her to Africa with me, to Capio, and they experienced, in actual fact, taking her with me was an absolute godsend, because 400 miles out in the Delta, we ran out of gas, for example.
Right.
And I was told, oh, it'll be about 3 months before we get any more gas. So, great. I've got a wife who loved that. She was out in the garden, lit a fire and cooked my meal, and we never had any problems. But if I'd had a Western wife, I'm not sure that would have happened.
Would have been what, a fear factor?
Well, she wouldn't
panic.
have known how to do it.
Yeah.
In 10 minutes, my wife had got
So
a fire
they're very
going.
resourceful, yeah.
Oh, yeah, incredibly resourceful.
Yeah.
Far more resourceful. She couldn't survive in England on her own. She's having great difficulty now we're divorced. But in her own culture, I'd die, she'd survive. She can make clothes out of plants. She knows which you can eat and what you can't eat. She can go fishing, hunting. She knows what to do.
So does she feel disempowered here?
Yes, terribly, and it's really sad.
How has that affected her?
She's become totally reclusive. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares. I'm all alone, and it's all your fault, Tony.
So she did feel more alive, and there was a heart
Yes.
to her. So there is a heart to their community. And
Oh, yes.
inclusiveness. Yeah.
Family is everything.
Yeah.
It's family. You'll die for your family. You'll die for your village. You'll die for your tribe.
Mm.
When I got to Papua New Guinea initially, the manager who was guiding me was a coastal man where tribal fighting is far less. And he said to me, well, if my tribe goes to fight, I'll take off my Western clothes, put on my tribal gear and go to war with them, because
Right.
it is inherent within us.
Yeah.
And it's still quite predominant there. Less so, but predominantly still exists. They call it the Wontok system, and people that are close to you are called Tambu, and people that speak the same language are called Wontoks, and that's used in Pidgin English.
Right. Okay. But to go back to the Sand people, they are more of an indigenous.
Oh, totally,
First
100%
race,
indigenous.
yeah.
They've been there since time memorial. They're wonderful people.
Peaceful.
I don't know. They're hunter-gatherers,
Yeah.
and they
And
hadn't got time for war or anything.
No.
Survival was what it was all about.
Living in the desert. So they live on tubers, did you say?
Tubers,
Yeah.
they'd kill animals,
Yeah.
and they were amazing hunters. They had tiny little arrows that long,
Yeah.
tipped with poison.
Okay. What was the poison? The plant.
I think it came from an animal.
Perhaps a
You've caught
snake.
me on the hop.
Maybe a snake.
I can't recollect, but
Okay.
the poison was there, and their arrows were tiny and their bows were tiny because they were tiny.
Yeah.
But they would walk for miles pursuing an animal until they exhausted it, and then they shot it.
Right. Yeah.
But a lot of these people know about the food they eat. You know, we come along and
seasons and.
Well, not just that, but some of the food you eat is poisonous.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to treat it to get rid of the poison, then you'll die.
Yeah.
So they know how to treat food to get the poisons out before they eat it. They know trees, you pick the branch and snap it, and water pours out.
Yeah, so that takes me nicely onto our baobab tree.
Yeah, the
Which is
upside down tree.
The upside down tree, which is known as the African tree of life. So you've seen one of these?
Oh, I've seen hundreds of them.
Right. They are immensely magnificent, aren't they?
Oh, they're beautiful, but they do look like they've been planted upside down. They're huge, some of them, absolutely.
Yeah.
200-300 feet high.
But they can be like 1,000 years old.
Yes.
Really, yeah, ancient.
They're beautiful, but I love all trees.
So a lot of the African trees store water, because that's what this is what the baobab tree does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But a lot of the plants have huge tubers, like
under the
giant potatoes, and you dig them up,
and they're full of moisture.
They're full of moisture.
Yeah.
But to carry the moisture, they take an ostrich egg and they drill a hole one end, take all the contents out, eat it, of course, and then fill it up with water and plug the hole with clay.
Right. Yeah.
And so they could carry that in the desert and go for days with no water. But if you look at their bodies, they're a sort of reddy colour, and their fat is just a non-existent word. They are incredibly slim and lithe and muscular.
Yeah.
But anybody who lives that sort of a life is muscular.
Yeah.
You jolly well got to be.
Well, they're healthier. They've got less of the the Western
they do
diet,
eat meat.
Convenience
they do eat
food.
Meat.
Yeah.
But they eat a lot of vegetables too. But they're hunter-gatherers. They don't farm.
Yeah. Okay. And that's what you went over.
Well, they were part of my school.
Okay.
The area I was in, there were no shops. The kids ate pretty rubbish food. A lot of maize meal flour turned into a thing called sadza. It's a sort of porridge. And whatever you could put with it. Now, in the Delta are tigerfish. And so the local villagers would catch tigerfish and sell it to the school. And the school would cook it for the students. However, we had very little electricity, so there was no way of refrigerating it. I've come out of my house and seen them cooking the food, which might have been tigerfish that have been kept in a cupboard for a week in 100 degrees. It was rank.
And they'd eat it?
Well, they had to. There was nothing else.
Wow.
The smell used to waft across the school to my house, and it'd make me reach just on that contact with it. I don't know how they ate it.
Did they not salt it then?
No.
Right.
No, they might dry it, but
it was still,
they just didn't. The school, whether the cook was not knowledgeable enough, I don't know, but
they had to eat it. Gosh.
Oh, they ate it often.
Yeah.
So occasionally they'd say to me, well, you're the agricultural teacher, go down the village and buy a cow or something and bring it back for the kids. And that was a revelation. It's in the book.
Oh, brilliant.
But what I've discovered in the countries I've lived in, there's no word for cruel. Cruel doesn't exist. If you want to eat and you've got a cow in front of you, you'll kill it. And how you kill it is irrelevant. So I've seen some pretty unpleasant ways of killing a cow and other animals.
Yeah.
Really unpleasant, which to a Westerner is very difficult to cope with.
Well, or we just hide it. It's still happening,
Oh,
isn't it?
Slaughterhouses are horrific.
Awful conditions, quite frankly. So.
But I mean, it's in my book. I'll tell the story. But not by the book, because I tell the story.
Yeah, no, because we are. This is a really.
The first cow I bought in.
Yeah.
I said, right, we've got the cow there. How are we going to kill it? Oh, So two of the students got an axe and tried to cut its head off. Alive, tied up, and it was brutal. So the next time I said, well, we've got to do something a little bit better than that. I can't cope with that again. Got a cow in, and I said to the school boatman, you've got a gun, can you shoot it? And he shot it right in the middle of the forehead, and the bullet hit its head and bounced onto the floor. And the cow stood there with blood pouring out of its nose and mouth. Terrible distress, mooing but not dying.
Oh.
And I said to him, quick, shoot it again. I'm sorry, I haven't got any more bullets. He said, oh, so I roped it, dropped it. You can rope a cow a certain way and fall it, and I cut its throat.
Yeah.
I had to teach my students to do that in the future because I believe that that was the most humane way I could come up with.
Yeah.
I never enjoyed it. But and as an example of not having a word cruel, and again it's in my book, we had a pack of dogs in the school grounds. We were fenced in 10 acres with 10-foot high fencing to keep the elephants out. But a pack of dogs had got in and they were rabid. They had rabies.
Right.
And they attacked me. So I told the headmaster and he said, well, we'll kill them. So the senior students went out and stoned them to death. And one of them they stoned to death on my front fence. And I sat on my veranda watching and crying because it was the most terrible thing I've ever seen. The dogs screaming and howling and crying and piteous, piteous. I'd never want to see anything like that again. It was horrible. It's still, even thinking about it, moves me emotionally because I don't want to see any animals suffer like that.
Mm.
But that is a demonstration of how the word cruel doesn't exist.
Yeah. But here, I mean, as you were saying, the way that we treat animals here, it's just hidden. It's not, the suffering is still occurring. It's
there
just
is cruelty,
still
but we have that word cruel. You've been cruel to this animal.
Yeah.
But out there, you'd say you've been cruel to this animal. They'd say, what? What do you mean? We have to eat.
Yeah. And they won't, and they don't eat more than they need.
No, but they eat things that I can hear Westerners going, oh, disgusting. We'd eat dogs, cats, caterpillars, locusts, termites, ants, snakes. I've eaten water buffalo, crocodile, hippo. But
there would be no waste. Hippo, that would be quite interesting. That's the most violent animal, isn't it, on the planet?
You wouldn't kill it, you'd wait for it to die.
Okay, I was going to say, wow.
No waste. And then they'd just tow it back to the...
Yeah, so, yeah.
In the water, they'd tow it back to the school and bring it up into the village where there was a tree. And any animal that was available was dragged up into the tree, hung up and quartered and turned into meat that the village participated in. But you had to be quick because within 10 minutes the carcass was covered with flies.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's like you stepped out of the back door at night time and 10 million mosquitoes fell on you. You could be covered from head to toe in mosquitoes.
Yeah, did you get bitten?
Oh yeah, I've had malaria 11 times.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
In Papua New Guinea I had malaria, in Botswana I had malaria, and I had even worse in Micronesia.
So were you treated? With
drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which they tried to put me on prophylaxis, and I said, no, I don't like the side effects. It destroyed your bone marrow and your retina. So what we did was we took the whole packet in one hit when we got malaria. So we shook like hell for about 24 hours and then stayed in bed for a few days.
Gosh.
But I've had cerebral malaria, intestinal malaria.
And you're still with us.
I'm still with you, yeah. And I've had dengue fever, which is deadly.
Not to you, Tony.
Well, I was lucky.
What happened there?
I was in Micronesia, the island of Ponape, and I got dengue fever, and my wife panicked and ran away and left me. So I'm alone in the house. I was unconscious for 2 days. Woke up to find my bed surrounded by all these little local kids. Oh, what do you want? And they said, oh, we've come to watch the white man die.
Oh, really?
Oh, I thought, no. So go and get me some help. And they got me a wonderful guy from the island of Majuro,
Okay.
who was a teacher living in the house next door. He did some amazing internal massage on my kidneys and liver, which really pepped me up and made me feel capable. And then he took me to the hospital where I was for 18 days.
Wow, that's incredible. So that was like the local natural doctor.
Well, he just knew what to do. I mean,
Yeah.
when you live in the wilds and there aren't any doctors, as on most of the Pacific Islands, you use what's available. So you use your hands, your plants.
Organs. Yeah.
But actually, I remember it made an incredible difference. It relieved the pain and the stress.
So what is the nature of that disease?
Dengue fever is a mosquito-borne disease that gives you the most terrible diarrhea, vomiting, you dehydrate, and you die. I was very ill. I was close to death.
That's incredible. So did you have any experiences when you were close to death?
Well, I was unconscious for 2 days. I don't remember.
No, so you didn't have any out-of-body experiences?
Not that I'm aware of now. I mean, retrospect.
Were you a changed man?
No, I've always sort of lived life on the edge and enjoyed it. But I think it's kind of a personal challenge for me to do things that frighten me, that I'm scared of, that I wouldn't do, but I'm going to do them because I challenge myself. So going out to see an elephant in the bush in Botswana, no sane person would have done that. And I found myself 6 feet away from an elephant in the bush, and oh, what's that? Oh, it's an elephant's leg. My God, it's huge.
You just managed to walk right up to an elephant?
Yes, I was within 6 feet of it. I couldn't see the elephant. I just saw a leg, and I love challenging myself. It's
on a wing and a prayer.
No, I don't know. Challenging myself makes me look at myself. How am I reacting to this situation, and how do I react after? And I'm going to die. No, I'm not. I've flown in airplanes where people have said, that's a dangerous flight. You know, I hope you make it all right. I've gone in, oh, I'll get it all right. You know, what's the problem?
Is there an element of being au contraire there, what do you think? Or it is your own personal challenge to yourself?
Own personal challenge to myself. I did scuba diving.
Yeah.
I did a complete course because I'm terrified of the water. And so it was a challenge. And I won. Whenever I challenge myself, I've won. Thank God.
You were saying that last time that came in after you'd lost Layla, or that was in Canada. There was an incident in Canada when you decided after that you were going to challenge.
It was more when I came back to the UK. I think going to Canada was fulfillment of a promise that Leela and I were going to do it together, and we couldn't, so I did it on my own.
Yeah.
And the first part I did in a dream, and then I sort of started to come out of my shell, and yes, I challenged myself. Going in a seaplane, for example, I've never done it. I thought I'd do it.
So is it like losing Leela was like the worst thing that could have happened to you at that point? So
well, if you can imagine two people that are total soulmates, totally joined together, not totally independent individuals, but with such caring for each other that you are as one.
Yeah.
And suddenly I wasn't as one. I was as me without my other half, and that takes some getting used to. we'd been together 30 years, and
Yeah.
it takes a bit of getting used to. So going to Canada, my initial part was just getting used to being on my own and not being afraid of being on my own and learning to be safe and content. Too many people were in my situation, I realize, lose someone who they rely on and they fall apart. They fold up, they go under, they take to drink, drugs, they commit suicide. And it's my character, I guess, but I just was resolved not to go that route, to make her loss my gain.
Yeah.
That's part of what my book's
To make
about.
meaning,
It's
yeah.
to show that the gain I have made has benefited me, and I'd love to share it with everybody else.
Wonderful. So where is this book available?
On Amazon.
Right. Okay. So My Wings of Destiny, an autobiography by Tony Bevington, on Amazon. I mean, there's lots more to tell, isn't there?
Oh, a million things more.
And you're going on to you're continuing to write other stories.
Yes.
You just told me this morning. Yeah.
My travels have also made me realize, which I'm going to try and propound in some of my future books, certain words we use in the West, like truth, good and bad, and things like that. Where you travel, you find that they actually have different meanings to different people. And so I'm questioning what these words are.
Do you have any reflections now?
Yes. I guess religion comes to mind, because you look at religion and the missionaries go out and they say, ours is the way, the truth. And I immediately, hey, truth? How do you know it's the truth? You're only telling it your way. What about these people that you're trying to tell you have the truth and they don't have the truth? Yes, they do. Their truth is just as good as yours. Why the hell should you come here and tell them that your truth is better than theirs? It's actually like I propounded to a Papua New Guinea friend of mine recently. He's become religious, and he's posted a picture of Jesus. And I said, hey, Connie, why is Jesus white? Can't Jesus be black?
Mm.
You know, we are pushing ourselves onto other people, and let's see why we push ourselves onto people. And there's an ulterior motive. It's ego.
White supremacy. Yeah.
We're better than you. We know better than you. Bullshit. We don't.
Mm-hmm.
We don't. We just arrogantly say we do. So words like truth are just not relevant in life at all. There is no such thing as truth. There is your truth, Beverly's truth, and whoever's watching. Each one of you have your own truths, and none of them are the same. They're all different, and they're all yours. I think I said this on the last video, actually. Go with it. But that's the most important thing I've learned.
So there are natural laws that you've experienced that people have to live. They are completely dependent on nature, aren't they? You know,
yes.
Look at these. So there are natural laws, and there are ethics and values and virtues.
Yes, don't overhunt, don't overkill, don't overproduce, don't take more than you need. But it's all related to survival.
Balance, not dominance or greed.
It all goes to survival. If you eat too much, then there may not be more left for later, so you don't do it because it will help you survive. If you come to your family, you need your family to help you to survive. They need you, you need them. So you all come together as a group, as a community, and you do things together and you benefit everybody.
Yeah.
Can we see the same in Western society? No, we can't.
Not currently, no. But
Definitely not currently.
Yeah. But we are definitely heading that way. I am very optimistic, Tony.
Unless so.
I know, but you know, I think we are at a turning point now. Things have to get worse before they get better sometimes, don't they?
Yeah, I suppose, and that's been reflected in my life because I went through hell and I came out the other side, and I think I'm a better person for it.
Perhaps stronger, truer to yourself.
I'm nicer.
Authentic, nicer.
I'm
Compassionate.
Yeah, but I don't know where all these things came from. They just sort of developed.
Experiential wisdom, the soulful journeys that perhaps, you know, you've been to Africa, you've immersed yourself in African tribes, you know, you've allowed life to teach you.
I've had a wonderful time, but all of it's been learning. In Micronesia, I never did a jot of work for 2 years because Micronesia Island, where I was, is an American protectorate, and the Americans made it far too easy for the people to buy food from America cheaper than they could produce it themselves. So all incentive to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
And so the college I worked at, the principal used to say to me every day, "Oh, there's nothing to do on the farm. Take the boys down to the beach and do some diving and dig some sand." And for 2 years, quite a good salary, I did that. And the boys came from all the Pacific Islands, Kwajalein, Majuro, Chuuk, and various other Pacific Islands. And they taught me everything they knew because there we would go out to a little island, spend a day there, take us 10 minutes to dig a bag of sand, and then we'd laze on the beach, go fishing. They teach me how to cook the fish and what fish were good to eat and what fish weren't. Coral trout is big, red, pink fish. It's beautiful to eat. But they also taught me how to survive in those circumstances, how to get a coconut down from the tree.
Yeah.
Bet you've never tried to climb a coconut in bare feet. God, it hurts.
Shuffling. You've got to shuffle, haven't you?
Well, yeah, but the bark
Barefoot.
is incredibly sharp. It rips the soles of your feet to pieces.
Yeah. So they've got tough feet.
Yes, very tough feet.
Mm.
But that was another learning experience.
Yeah,
they would talk to me about their lives.
So, I mean, that's really kind of living the dream, though, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but I wish I wasn't here now. I wish I was back there.
Yeah.
Because life is so much simpler. I spent some time on an island in the Pacific called the Duke of York Islands and lived with
Duke
them.
of York?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's out from Rabaul in East New Britain.
Right.
A motorbike ride out, unspoiled, people live exactly as they always have done. But the point I'm making is that I was living there with the headman's family.
Yeah.
And we did a little bit of pottering in the morning my first day. We did a bit of gardening, bit of mending a canoe. And then I said, "Okay, what work have you got now?" And it's stuck with me for the rest of my life. "Work," he said. "What for?" "We're done."
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's something we've lost. What do we work for? We only work for money.
Who do we work for?
And money
Why
is
do
an
we
introduction.
Work?
And we went and sat on the beach and lazy all day.
Yeah.
The women worked.
They continue to work.
Yes, but the men didn't.
Well, I think that's quite normal.
But there we were sitting next to on a white coral sandy beach with a blue 30-degree sea in front of us. If we were hungry, we could pop in the boat and go out and catch a fish or two, climb a coconut and get some coconuts, bananas, mangoes, dig in the garden, sweet potatoes, yams, taro, dig up the greens, and you've got a meal.
Wonderful. So how long were you there? Did you say 2 years?
No, I was on the island for only a month.
Right.
And it was wonderful. Right?
Yeah.
We had a funeral,
What they
traditional funeral, which was very interesting.
describe that?
I was
If you
told I
can't.
had to dress up smartly.
Okay.
So I didn't have many smart clothes with me, so I did my best. And I was the guest of honour. The whole of the village green was turned over to festivities. The funeral took place elsewhere, but after the funeral it was a completely change of atmosphere. So we went to the funeral and I stood and watched, and like so many funerals in these countries, it's terribly emotional. The singing, don't like religion, hate's a bad word. I don't like religion, I've got no place in my life for it. But the songs are really moving.
Yeah.
And they all sang, and I stood and watched, and I found myself crying. Ridiculous, but...
Well, I think that's probably the idea of these rites of passage, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
An expression of emotion.
Just wonderful. And
yeah.
then we all went to the village green, which was just a huge coral sandy area with houses all around it. Now, the houses are just on stilts made of wood and banana leaves. Very basic house, but great to live in.
Yeah.
Because it's hot.
Yeah.
So they're raised up off the ground to let the cool air circulate. And they've got 20 or 30 pigs killed, laid out on the ground, split, cut up, with each one was a little parcel for a visitor who came to the funeral, and each parcel is done in accordance to the individual's importance. So the bigger the parcel, the more important the person. And the pièce de résistance on the top is a pile of shells which have been ground smooth and round and threaded on cord, and that's bride price.
Okay.
And they give that to friends so that when they want to buy a wife, they can buy a wife. But again, it's staggered down, and the chief, my friend, was dead anxious. Oh, I've got to get it right, you know. So there's a certain keeping up appearances.
Yeah. So do you think those traditions, are they indigenous?
Yes.
The hierarchy?
Yes.
Yeah, they are.
Very indigenous.
Okay. Yeah. So do they tell the story of the person's life?
No. Not anymore, because Christianity's taken over.
Okay.
And it was a coffin.
Yeah.
And a grave. And a gravestone.
Yeah. So there is that Christian influence, the church influence there on the island.
Very strong.
Right.
There are so many different missionaries.
Duke of York, yeah.
Seventh-day Adventists are strong. Methodists are strong. The Catholics are there. And a group called the New Tribes Mission, who have been responsible, in my opinion, for much suffering of peoples in the developing world, because they impose very strict limits on what they can and can't do, and yet won't socialize with them. So I've actually encountered a New Tribes Mission buildings where they fence themselves off and they won't allow the nationals on whose land they are to enter.
So they're imposing oppression on them.
And I just see religion as doing that.
Yeah.
Law enforcement is pretty interesting too in these countries, because it can be brutal.
Yeah. And it's imposing the will of the governing bodies.
I was in a shop. I usually carried a knife, a big Bowie knife on my waist, and I was in a shop with the headmaster of the school that I was at in Papua New Guinea, and I, in all innocence, put a note on the to pay for my purchases on the counter, and hadn't noticed a tiny little boy who'd crept in, and his hand was coming up onto the counter, and the master with me grabbed my knife and chopped his fingers off.
Oh, the headmaster did that.
Well, like a deputy head, yeah.
And there's no law against
Oh no,
that.
that was it. Justifiable retribution.
Right.
On another occasion, I saw a little boy, must have been about 10. He was shoplifting, got caught. The police were taking him to the police station, and he broke free and ran, and they just mowed him down in the street in front of everybody, killed him.
So they set an example, quite violently.
So you could be pretty scared of the cops.
Yeah.
And Botswana was the same.
And is it still like that? Just to,
Well,
before we round up, just to talking to your friends, has much changed there? Have things evolved? How have they changed now, present day?
it's more materialism,
Okay.
more, but in the villages up in the mountains of the highlands, it's pretty much the same. They wear clothes. Regretfully, although it's nice to be able to communicate, they all have mobile telephones now. So I'm in touch with anybody I want to be in touch with. And I keep in touch with my Papua New Guinea, my Botswana friends still.
Yeah. So you've captured in your book
Well, there's a multitude of stories.
a
in
multitude
there.
of stories, but also you've captured it before.
I was lucky. I mean, I started out in 1990, my travels,
Okay.
or even before 1988. I was traveling in Canada and America.
Yeah, so it's a very different window, isn't it, of you?
I've moved from incident to incident, trying to portray how it was for me, how it affected me, where it took me, and what I learned from each place I went.
Wonderful. So there's lots of information in there. Is there anything you'd like to say as we round up this?
There's always going to be more
Chapter?
stories, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
You know, this could go on forever because I've got
Well, we will do
a
another one.
million more stories.
Yeah.
I discovered that I wish I'd been a storyteller instead of being a teacher or a farmer. And although you may not think I tell stories very well, I actually love sitting down with my friends and telling these stories and trying to pass to them what it's done for me. And I guess this is my book doing the same, but for everyone who cares to read it.
Absolutely. That experiential wisdom straight from the heart.
Oh, definitely from the heart.
So what would you like to complete with today? We will do some more, I'm absolutely sure. Is there a little brief story that you'd like to share, or summing up?
Oh my God. Yes. This is quite a funny little story. I was given a bow and arrow in Papua New Guinea, and I'm not very good with those sort of things. And I'm standing in the school grounds practicing shooting at a tree, and boom, an arrow went past me, stuck in the tree, quivering. So I turned around, and there's a tiny little boy grinning at me with his bow and arrow. He made me look stupid. He was so good, and I was so pathetic.
Yeah.
It was really quite funny. It made me laugh.
So they're very sharp. Yeah.
Another wonderful story in my book. I had my school gardens in Botswana, and we were clearing it ready to plant. And I said to the boys, "There's that tree there, that's got to go." And we left some trees for shade, but I said, that tree's got to go. Here's an axe, cut it down. No, we can't do that, teacher. I said, of course you can. Go on, go and do it. No, we can't. I said, yes, you can. Look, took the axe, hit the tree, nearly broke my arms because the tree was like iron. I thought, here, I'm learning something now. So what do you do then? I said. They dug a hole round the tree and burned it down. And I learned something.
What did you learn?
I learned that I don't know it all. I learned a bit of humility. I mean, I've got, immediately I could feel stories coming. I punished some boys in Africa and they had to clean out the shed. And I'm standing in the door of the shed and they suddenly all came running out and disappeared. And I said, when they came back, they'd got marks on their faces. And I said, well, where did you go? And they said, oh, there was a wasp nest, teacher. And look, it stung us. And I could see them being stung. I said, well, I didn't see them. And they said, no, they flew straight past you. They didn't see you because you're white. Oh, no, I just don't believe that. They reckon the wasp didn't sting me because I'm white. Bullshit. No, I don't know why they didn't sting me. But what can I say? You know, it's another story.
It's another story, yeah. So there's lots more. There's loads more to read in this book. And there's going to be other books, aren't there?
Yes, I'm doing an extension of this one.
Okay.
With all the stories that I haven't put in this one, plus thoughts and other things. There'll be a couple of other books, I expect.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I do hope you enjoy it.
So Amazon,
My
Wings of Destiny by Tony Bevington. Please do consider buying it. It's fascinating. And Tony would be very grateful, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I'd be even more grateful if you get something out of it for yourselves.
To make meaning of it all.
Yes, to understand what I'm trying to get across. That's really what it's about. It's not about me making money from it. It's about me passing on the wisdom I have learned and sharing it with others.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tony. Until next time.
Thanks, Beverly.
There we go. Is that all right?
Yeah. I hope to show you some of my wicker work that I've got from Africa.
Is that banana?
No, this.
I got that in a charity shop. It's lovely.
Something's fallen on me.
Has it? Did you ignore it?
Just there.
Oh, that's probably the crystal. Oh, you ignored it. Well done. I think that one was. We had one dog bark, but that's.
No,
okay.
I think this is made from leaves.
Okay.
I've got some wonderful baskets made from papyrus reed in Botswana. Nobody ever appreciates how beautiful they are.
Okay.
They are incredibly beautiful.
The leaves.
Well, they're baskets. They're round baskets done in patterns.
Yeah.
With a removable lid.
I think we're still recording. I do put. Bye.
You do.
We're going now.